Okay, we are radioactive.
তোমার চোখে তাকিয়ে আমি হারিয়ে যাই বহুদূর তোমার ঠোঁটের হাসিতে ঝলমল করে রোদ্দুর
So we went to North South University, Dhaka, and then we had a club called NSUSS, which is Sanskritik Shangathan of North South University. And I was already involved there, and then she joined.
He was pretty much, he was more like the hero of the Shangathan. So he would go like, Aita Koro, Aita John. He was very, like, you could see him everywhere. And he had a very big gang of friends, and you could see the whole group. And they were fun and positive, and they were a lot of fun to be with. And I hadn't had that kind of friendship, like 15 people, best friends. So I got really attached to the group, and then I met him, and then he was a singer there. So he would wear the bandana, and wear the stuff, and get on stage and sing. And I was already singing, but I hadn't met anyone kinda like him. And I was like, you know what? I was like, and then we started singing. And the biggest thing we did was we used to play pool. So amra university majkhane shara din pool kheltam.
Like billiard.
And pool khelte something happened. And rather than music, pool khelte we became really good friends, and from friends we became a couple. And then we started performing together as well.
And when we were growing up, we only had access to BTV and probably 1 or 2 channels. And back in those days, she was obviously she was singing with her dad in their band. And we used to watch their band perform on TV. And she was almost like in our friend circle, she was almost like a national crush. Like, oh, look at the girl, you know, playing keyboard and singing and whatnot. And then when we met, it was just a bit weird, like, you know, someone I saw on TV, and then that person is there and wants to, you know, have a friendship with our friend circle, which was pretty interesting. And then she was doing her own stuff with her dad, and then I was doing, at that time, I'm talking about 2004 or 5, I was involved in a few groups. I was involved with a few other friends who were having their solo career, just playing with them, singing with them. And then we sort of started playing together in university.
University te amra ekta choto like cultural show hoto, ulate amra we created our own band with our other friends, and we started performing together, and it really worked, and people actually really accepted us as a couple and in a band. Shibhabe amader we expanded a lot, we met more friends, and then Mitul basically took part in a reality show. It's called D-Rock Stars, which I was a host for. I was a regional judge, but I was also hosting, emceeing the whole program. So Ukane, they became the first runner-up, and their band Radioactive took off. Like they were really, really good, Age, but Radioactive basically took off, and they became the national crush. Oh my god, I sometimes went to some of the shows like Vikarnes and Unskule, ekta shote ami gelam oder sathe, and I was like, what is this happening here? And girls going nuts, fans going nuts, band going nuts, it was fun.
It was very hard the first couple of years after we moved to here, because obviously we came as students, and then masters was enormous pressure. So that sort of didn't give us any time to spare on music. So 2 years we did basically nothing, and a little bit of recording, and probably 1 gig in that 2 years. But that's it. And after the 2 years, when we were a bit free, we had some time, we started playing here and there, you know, in Sydney. And then we somehow formed a band with 2 other friends. And then all of a sudden we have a gig in Melbourne. So we went to Melbourne, we played the gig, people loved it. And then we were like, probably this is it. Probably we should continue doing this. And then from that point onwards, we've been doing gigs together, and it helps because I think what the biggest struggle for Sydney-based Bangladeshi musicians would be time. Because you're so busy, you're doing your stuff at home, and then you working to make a living and whatnot. It's just too hard. For us, it worked out because, you know, we're married, we're a couple, we live in the same house, we've got a studio in our house. So that sort of gives us some time. So even if when we come back from work, we have half an hour to spare, we can just go into the studio room, do a bit of work, think about music.
But I think we're lucky because although it does help to live in the same house and be married, but I think we think in the same way.
Oh, absolutely.
I think the way we've done music previously, we understand each other, and we understand that now the next few hours should be dedicated to music and we should do it together. For me, I've always sung in English. So from when I started, we did our own, like my dad's and my own, but the rest were all covers. So I've never actually, very little have I sung in Bangladesh. I don't know how the audience will react to that, but I've actually never sung Bangla in Bangladesh. I started singing folk and a lot of Bangla songs after coming to Sydney because that's what was required here. People who have been here for ages, they haven't heard the recent Bangla songs, so what takes them back and gives them a lot of good memories and a good feeling is the old songs. So Mitul helped me a lot because I was never a folk artist. I didn't know it takes a lot of courage to sing folk songs. So I learned it and Mitul was like, this is how you do it, because he was really good. He's really good with folk. And he's like, no, this is how it is at this part. And then I'm folk gawa shuru korlam ekhane. And it worked and resonated so well with the audience. And that's why we sing. It's for the audience. So that's a tough one because we were born in Bangladesh. No matter how long we stay here, Bangladesh is going to be our dish, our country. And for both of us, I know that because we started our music, we started our writing. Every single word we write in a song somehow reflects Bangladesh, always does. Our relationships, our family, living away has been a challenge, especially for music because we left our best friends who were our band members as well. So those are relationships that were formed 15, 20 years. We worked on it and we played together. To leave that safety and getting out of our comfort zone and restarting everything here in Australia, it was meant to be a challenge. But I think Mitul is very lucky. I think he's a good musician magnet, that's what I call him. Because everywhere he goes, he always meets these musicians who are really keen to collaborate and who are really good human beings.
So even with our brand, The Crew, last big gig that we did was Sydney Olympic Park. And we collaborated with a few other friends of ours who are not normally singing with us all the time, but they came and they put in their time and effort, so that worked really well. And then after that we sort of started another project called Laura and the Mob, and in that project it's me, Laura, and two other Australian guys. One guy from Melbourne, he's a bass player, and the other guy from Sydney, he is the drummer. And we're loving it because you get to sort of explore other avenues of music. Because obviously we learned everything in Bangladesh and it's done in a certain way. You basically depend on your ears, nothing else, and your brain. You don't learn anything because there's not even a single institute of music where you can go and learn composition and whatnot.
There are a few now. We've been away for a while. Now I'm guessing there are.
Well, there were none
when we started. There was no social media either. There was nothing. So
it was hard. But now that they're with us, we're sort of exchanging ideas, and they're loving our folk songs. So we recently started recording a folk song, and our bassist Tom, he was going crazy. He's like, man, this is great stuff. Like, I would love to play, in my way, but also to fuse with, sort of that specific song. And they're all loving it because it's an exchange of ideas, an exchange of, how do you say this, exchange of music as well. So they're bringing in their part, we're bringing in our part, and it's good. So that's a real collaboration. Enjoying it so far.
It's a lot of fun, and because we don't have a brief that this is exactly what you need to do, it's easier, and we're just going crazy doing whatever we want, and the output is so far being really good. All the creative juices are flowing, and the guys are really, really talented. So it's like, this is what we have to play, and they're just doing it. So it's like we're the ones falling behind. We're like, whoa, what did you just say? I don't know what that means. So it's like a good creative exchange, and we hope that Laura and the Mob, we as a band, we do a lot of other work. We are sort of looking at a few dates in the future, so hopefully we'll be sharing some of our work.
Yeah, well, you might think at the same time that, why you already have a band, why do you have a separate project? Well, I just want to explain that, these things happen, like bands break and they break up and then go somewhere else. For us, it was more like catering to the crew has always been the overseas Bangladeshi band, and we've been touring, going to all different states and doing gigs for the Bangla community. Whereas Laura and the Mob is more like to connect to the Australian music side of it. So we played in venues like Django Bar, and that's an iconic Sydney venue where a lot of Sydney bands would go and play, and that's what we're aiming, doing Bangla music and whatnot. But maybe it's time, because we're gonna be living in this country, maybe it's time to go and tap into this society and this music and and so on. So that's the whole idea of having that multicultural group where we share ideas and give something new to the Australian industry maybe in the future.